Okay. All right. We're ready to go.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time today to make your health and your wellness a priority and to join us for this month's webinar Wednesday, 4 steps you need to fix your gut. We want to be really respectful of our time together today, and we have a lot of information to get through. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to jump in, and we're going to get started. But before we do, allow us just to take a minute and introduce ourselves. For those of you who are new to Abundant Life Nutrition and Wellness Center, I'm Kelly.
I'm Jay.
And we are both board certified in holistic nutrition. And we have recently grown and welcomed Nicole to our team. So we're super excited about that.
Yep.
Today, we are going to be looking at why fixing your gut is so critical for your overall health. For many people, it's the root of a lot of the issues that they deal with. If you have any questions throughout our time together, please don't hesitate to ask. Just put it in the chat and we'll be sure to address your questions at the end of the webinar. So today we're going to explore the root cause of disease and how it begins with digestion and how we can figure out and remove the problem. By the end of our time together today, you'll better understand the importance of repairing your gut, restoring your beneficial bacteria, and replacing the nutrients that you are missing. By the end of today, you'll have a clear action, laid out steps that you can take to improve your digestive health. So the gut or the gastrointestinal system is an incredible gateway to optimal health. In fact, 70% of your immune system is in your gut. Your gut is how your body absorbs nutrients or doesn't. So it has what it needs to make things like hormones and neurotransmitters, both super important to your overall health and wellness. Your gut, more specifically, the health and the integrity of your gut, is literally the foundation to your health and wellness. This is about so much more than just digestive health and function. In addition to just digestion, your gut is also responsible for processes like your immune response, nutrient absorption, hormone regulation, vitamin production, detoxification, and mood management, just to name a few. The gut microbiome is an ecosystem of organisms, including bacteria, yeasts, fungi, viruses, protozoan. Throughout the digestive tract, it impacts every major system in the body. Your immune system, like we already mentioned, your endocrine system, which is responsible for hormone regulation, including thyroid, metabolism, sleep, sexual function, and more. Kind of those common things we see in middle age that start failing and breaking down.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It impacts your nervous system, which is responsible for all your sensory information, your circulatory system, your this word gets me, integumentary system, which is responsible for things like temperature regulation, cell fluid regulation, vitamin D synthesis. A lot of people think just because you're taking vitamin D, your body can use it. Not technically true. There's a couple of steps in there. It also impacts your respiratory system and your reproductive system. So basically what we're getting at is the health of your gut is a really, really big deal. So how do you know if your gut is healthy or if it's compromised? I mean, I think back in my own life and it was pretty clear my gut was compromised or was broken, but sometimes we are really good at justifying things that are broken because we just don't know what we don't know. So our bodies are created with intelligent design. They are fantastic at giving us signs that something is not right with the gut. The problem is we get into this space where we either ignore what our body is trying to tell us, or we just dismiss it as a normal part of aging, or this is what was true for me. This is just what happens in our family. And just because it is what happens or what's common does not mean that it's normal and does not mean that it is healthy. Do any of those justifications feel familiar to any of you guys? How does the body give us signs that something is off? What does the body do to get our attention? Well, the answer to both questions in one word is symptoms. Symptoms are how your body says, pay attention. Something is wrong. I need specific support. Common symptoms that present in the body when gut health is compromised are things like digestive distress, respiratory issues, heartburn, rashes, acid reflux. We see that a lot. Water retention, constipation, acne, migraines, congestion, fatigue, irritability, depression, and brain fog. And that's not even the whole list. That's just some of the biggies. All of these things and so many more can be traced back directly to gut health. Today, you're going to learn the 4 steps you need to fix your gut. Once you know how your body needs to be supported, healing, restoration, rebalance, all those things are possible. The body truly is capable of amazing things when it has what it needs.
So holistic nutrition serves as a combination of both nutrition sciences and traditional Chinese medicine. It uses this model of personalized care, treatment of the root cause of each issue that you have going on, and sustainable health promotion. It supports the whole person, not just their symptoms. That's why I love this so much. We're really looking at how your body interplays and interacts with all the other pieces of your body. We get so caught up in this world of specialists where we go see a heart specialist or a brain specialist or a digestive specialist or a muscle specialist, but
allergy specialist.
All of these, it's important to have these specialties, but oftentimes they forget to kind of look at our whole body as a whole thing and what is the interplay and what's impacting other things. So holistic nutrition revolutionizes our health because it empowers patients and clients to better understand the imbalance in their body and why it's there, how that imbalance is affecting their health, and then the solutions that are available for them to support those normal healing mechanisms within our bodies, because we have this innate intelligent design that is phenomenal at bringing healing if we just give it the right tools that it needs to do that. So next, we're just going to talk about what sabotages our gut health and some strategies to regain control of our health and life with important functional nutrition practices. So the gut is very, very powerful. It's one big, strong muscle, but it's also very, very delicate. And there are lots of factors that inhibit the gut's ability to maintain its bacterial balance, its structural integrity, and its absorptive qualities. And a few of the most common enemies to gut health include things like, first off, the standard American diet, which is just really, really sad.
And sad, and it's inflammatory, and it's destructive.
It is. It is, our diets in the States tend to be rich in sugar. They're heavily laden with chemicals. They lack nutrients. They lack fiber, and they contribute to this really unhealthy ecosystem inside our digestive tract. The next thing that's problematic is often excessive medications. We overprescribe our antibiotics, steroids, our anti-inflammatories, and our acid blocking drugs, and they significantly disrupt the gut's microbial balance. And then we have inadequate enzyme activity. We have to have sufficient digestive enzymes for breaking down, absorbing, and using nutrients inside our bodies. And when we don't have enough of them, that can just lead to a host of digestive problems. Toxic exposure is another one. This is a huge problem. I see it more and more. We're getting to the place where the clients that I work with, before we do anything else, we just start looking at supporting the body's detox pathways, because so many of us aren't even clearing toxins from our body in a healthy and productive way.
Yeah.
They are found in our air, in our water, in our foods, our personal care products. All of them damage our gut's ability to function properly.
Mm-hmm.
We have infections, invasions of the body by pathogens like bacteria, yeast, virus, fungi, parasites, and prions. And then chronic stress. The gut is very, very vulnerable to stress-induced changes in many of its crucial functions like absorption, digestion, and bacterial normalcy. And all of these factors, or a combination of them, disrupt the health and integrity of our guts. There was a study from the United States Department of Agriculture conducted in 2009, and it reported that 63% of the calories that Americans consume come from processed foods that contain preservatives, refined grains, and added sugars and oils. And in 2010, the USDA revealed that approximately 1,000 calories of our standard 2,775 calorie diet daily is kind of the average of what people eat. It was
way too many calories.
It is a lot of calories. Unless you're like out, my husband's a mailman. He probably burns about 3,000 calories a day in the heat outside, physically working his job. I don't burn anywhere near that many calories sitting at my desk in my nice air conditioned office doing all the work that I do. So we, calories is a whole conversation, right? But on average, Americans are eating 2,775 calories a day. 1,000 calories of those are made from added sweeteners and unhealthy fats. And in contrast, dairy, fruits, vegetables only counted for 424 calories of their diet every single day.
Super sad.
It is a bit sad. Well, it is a sad.
It's sad. Sorry. So standard American diet, sad.
Yes.
A joke that never gets old for us.
Yeah. 3 out of 4 Americans don't even eat a single piece of fruit a day. We have 9 out of 10 Americans not meeting the minimum recommended daily intake of vegetables, which is 5 to 9 servings a day. 99% of us don't even fulfill the recommended weekly intake of whole grains either. And the researchers ultimately concluded that nearly the entire US population consumes a diet that is not on par with recommendations. And those findings add another piece to the rather disturbing picture that is emerging, that we have a nation that is in a massive health crisis.
Yeah.
We are not a healthy group of people here in the US.
My husband was one of those statistics 21 years ago when we met. I would go to his house, we would hang out, and I would ask him, where's your fruit? And he's like, who buys fruit? And I was like, who are you? Can't imagine a life, even like growing up, because I grew up in the country, I can't imagine a life without fruits and vegetables. No. It just has always been part of my diet.
No, we grew up on kind of a mono diet, meat, potatoes, and peas. That's not true. My mom grew plenty of vegetables in the garden, but everything, the staples were meat, potatoes, and peas.
Yeah.
So while everyone's dietary needs are extremely different, there are general guidelines that everyone can benefit from adhering to. The ideal diet for someone looking to prevent gut imbalances and heal from gut dysfunction and reverse gut damage include things like eating whole unprocessed foods, having plant-based fiber, eating plenty of fruits and vegetables, having your beans and legumes, your nuts and seeds, and any non-dairy fermented foods. For most people that works. There are a caveat of a few people that don't do well with those.
Yeah, I thrive on fermented foods. It would take Jane out like first bite.
Yeah, I have histamine problems, so that's not a great fit for me, but this is the whole point. Like these are broad generalizations on the recommendations, but on the whole, this is the overwhelming thing that you need to do.
Right.
Or the broad basics of what we need to do. So to determine your specific dietary needs, you should be first off eliminating any foods that are triggering any inflammation or an immune response in your gut. And a common recommendation is to follow through with an elimination diet. So they can be a diagnostic tool to help you determine which foods are irritating your system, what ones are giving you sensitivities, which ones are allergies, what is contributing to this compromised gut. And the problem is that with an elimination diet, it can be overly restrictive. It can be a very long process, especially when adding foods back in properly. And also you may still be reacting to foods that are not ever eliminated on an elimination protocol. That's why we're firm believers in the statement, why guess when you can test?
Yep.
You find out exactly what you're reacting to. You can avoid eliminating things you don't need to eliminate. So up next, we're going to discuss more about these elimination diets so that you have a better understanding of what they are and how they work. And even though it has its flaws and its limitations, it can be a step to move you forward in a better direction, just depending on where you're going with your health journey. Alone, it's not likely to get you to where you want to be, because there are so many variables, and that's why we do testing, but it's a fantastic start. It's a great step.
If you're eating a standard American diet, you're gonna feel better after doing an elimination diet because you're getting off the processed foods.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna take the wheel for elimination diet because this is dear and personal to me, both good and bad. An elimination diet is administered in a way that removes common food irritants, like Jane was talking about, that could be sabotaging your health. The foods to eliminate from your diet are the common culprits, and they include dairy, gluten, soy, corn, which people think corn is a vegetable, it's a grain, eggs, refined sugar, peanuts, not a nut, it's a legume, red meat, alcohol, caffeine, hydrogenated oils, and all packaged processed foods. Basically, if it doesn't grow in nature, you don't put it in your mouth. This exclusion typically lasts 21 days to allow time for the negative food-related immune reaction, that IgG reaction, to disappear. Honestly, though, 21 days is not often long enough. The half-life of an IgG reaction is 28 days. So this means you really need to be eliminating the foods for about 56 days, or basically 2 months. That way the inflammation can come all the way down and your gut can try to heal. Once you've waited that proper amount of time, you will begin to reintroduce each food group individually while paying close attention to how each food makes you feel physically, mentally, emotionally, energy, sleep. It's pretty expansive. So what does that mean to add it back? Okay, you're going to pick one food to add back. You have one serving of that food, and then you wait 3 days and monitor any potential reactions from that food. If any food begins to bother you, you remove it again and continue reintroducing the remaining food groups. And, you know, it sounds pretty restrictive, but there are plenty of foods that you can have during an elimination diet. Unless you are aware of any specific dietary needs that your practitioner has advised you of, these foods are typically acceptable during the elimination phase. And I'm going to add little comments in here because
You can't help yourself.
I'm very opinionated on this, just because this was my life for a long time. Vegetables are typically good, except corn. Just talked about that. Not a veggie, it's a grain. Whole fruits in any form, fresh, frozen, water packed. Fruit cups that are packed in juice, not so much, because you're not going to be walking in a field and see a fruit cup bush, right? So remember, whole foods. Dairy substitutes, so anything that's either almond, coconut, hemp, or rice-based. Oat is an option too, but Jane and I don't typically love oat milk because it's super high in sugar. Not great for the gut. Sugar is very inflammatory. We want lean and clean animal protein.
Just to be clear, oat milk tastes really awesome.
It's sugar. Of course it tastes awesome. That's not what we're talking about. So when we say lean and clean animal protein, which is so fun to say, by the way, I love rhymes. We're talking about wild caught, grass-fed, grass-finished, sustainable, non-conventional commercial food. Okay. Nuts and seeds. I don't know. I see a lot of clients that react to nuts and seeds, and nuts and seeds, if you have a compromised gut, can be really hard to digest and can actually aggravate the gut. So even though it's acceptable for an elimination diet, I don't love it for an elimination diet.
I do want to toss in there what I have found, because my gut is like one of the most sensitive guts ever.
I second that.
Yeah. Soaking nuts took it to a whole new level.
Yes.
So nuts can be very hard to break down, but again, like we're doing broad generalizations, but when you actually soak the nuts for long enough, it helps to break down some of those anti-nutrients that
soak and change water.
And change water, yes. And then dehydrate them again. And it's a process, but those nuts taste divine when they are done. They're really crunchy. They're wonderful. But a lot of this, like even as we're talking about, we're going to talk about the grains in a few minutes, but soaking the grains before we use them.
Beans and legumes. You're not, a human digestive tract was not meant to eat nuts, seeds, or grains, or legumes, beans, without soaking it.
Yes. We've gotten to
historically, we always soaked it. Now it's just about convenience, and we pay the price.
Fast food society.
Yeah. So beans and most legumes, except soybeans and peanuts, are typically accepted on an elimination diet with the caveats that we just talked about. Gluten-free grains in moderation: rice, quinoa, amaranth, tapioca, buckwheat, teff. Again, it's supposed to be soaked. People are not soaking grains. Some people don't even rinse rice before they cook it. My kids were making rice, and I was like, I'm not eating dinner. High quality oils, like healthy fats, coconut, avocado, cold pressed olive oil. If you're going to do olive oil, as a side note, you don't want to cook with it. You want to use it for just kind of room temperature or cold dishes. Herbal teas, sweetener alternatives in moderation: honey, blackstrap molasses, brown rice syrup. I don't love brown rice syrup though, because it's just processed. Maple syrup is the one I'm thinking of. Maple syrup is acceptable. Do any of you have any experience with elimination diets? So kind of what I touched on in the beginning, I do. This was my life for years. So I have a love-hate relationship with it now. Let me explain. I'll start with the positives. It can be a great first step in cleaning up your diet, especially if you're coming from a standard American diet. It removes a lot of the common culprits of your digestive issues. Also, it can be a cheaper way to troubleshoot your gut. This is a great place now to shift into the negatives of an elimination diet. Let me be clear, as someone who did an elimination diet for 3 years straight and did not get all the way better, longest 3 years of my life. What you save in money, you will spend in time, energy, and stress. Working through food reactions blindly, like you do in an elimination diet, often weaponizes food and breaks your food relationship. Every little symptom you feel triggers this thought process of, it must be the food. What did I eat? Okay. Food becomes the enemy. In reality, food is what fuels your body. It is what nourishes your body. It is what allows your body to heal. You cannot heal with a broken food relationship. Food is not the only thing affecting your gut health either. Remember earlier we talked about all the different things that affect gut health. Remember chronic stress? That was one of the factors. Navigating food issues blindly on an elimination diet can be a tremendous source of chronic stress. I would much rather do proper gut testing and know right out of the gate what foods work for me and what foods don't work for me and take the guesswork out of it. I can move forward towards healing in a more clear way. And most importantly, I don't break my food relationship. It took me years to fix my food relationship after living that elimination diet life. And I was reacting to things like celery, onion, garlic, blueberries, spinach, kale. Those are things that are never removed from an elimination diet because they're healthy. But it's not healthy if it doesn't work for your gut.
All right, let's talk about sugar, my arch nemesis. According to the United States Department of Agriculture, the average American consumes over 150 pounds of refined sugars every year. Sugar is hiding in most of our foods. I've been working with a young lady recently, and she told me she couldn't understand why she was having such an awful weekend. She was really grumpy, really irritable. She hadn't been feeling that way. And I asked her kind of what was the clues, what had happened that weekend. She's like, well, family came into town and I went out and we ate out a lot. And I was like, okay, tell me one of the things you grabbed that you were out. And she said, well, we went to the QT and we got slushies. And I was like, oh, okay. No judgment, like straight face. And then I was like, okay, so let's look that up.
Let's see. Who doesn't love a slushie,
right? So we looked it up and it had something like 29 teaspoons of added sugars in that slushie alone. And that didn't account for any of the other things that she had done that weekend. And the little eyes got really, really big because truthfully, we have no idea how many hidden sugars are inside of our foods at all. It's everywhere.
Yeah. It reminds me of Elf when they're eating dinner. He's putting the maple syrup on the spaghetti.
Yeah.
And she's like, I take it you like sugar. He's like, is there sugar and syrup? Yes.
Yes. So it doesn't help, right? That all of the nutrition labels are really pretty intentionally vague when it comes to sugar and using this grams measurement. To most Americans, grams feel very abstract. You look at a label and you go, well, it's got 3 grams of sugar. That's not too bad. It's just 3. But in reality, 1 gram of sugar is almost a teaspoon of sugar. So you would not likely eat a teaspoon of sugar and think, oh, that's not bad for my body. And most people would never consider eating excess spoons of sugar a day, but we do it all the time when we don't realize how much is hidden inside our processed foods.
Yeah.
Just a 12-ounce can of soda has 10 teaspoons of sugar in it. So if you think about it, would you actually grab a glass of water, add 10 teaspoons of sugar to it, stir it all up, and then sip at that for the next hour and wonder why you felt cranky and wonder why you felt sick and wonder why your pancreas was screaming at you? You wouldn't. But we do that and we don't even think twice about it.
People would drink more water though.
That's not the way to do it.
I would say this though, there are some bottled waters out there where they have it sweetened.
Yeah.
And they tell you it's regular water, and then it's your
Gotta
favorite
watch
brand,
your labels,
and you're
man.
drinking it, and you're actually drinking sugar, even though you think you're drinking water. So labels really matter.
Yeah. So the American Heart Association reports that the average American consumes 77 grams of sugar every day. That's almost 19 teaspoons of refined sugar a day. And we aren't even talking about the naturally occurring sugars that we get from our fruits and our other foods. And those added refined sugars actually end up destroying the gut. There is a direct correlation between sugar consumption and diseases like obesity, cardiovascular disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, cognitive decline, and some cancers as well.
I would actually say not even some cancers. Going through my oncology training, it's a direct contributor. It's huge.
Yes.
People don't even realize it.
So these nutrition labels don't make it very easy for us to avoid refined sugars. They're sneaky in that their added sugars come in many forms and they go by many names. I was just talking to a gal today. She was reading a list of them. She's like, there's like 50 names for sugar. And there is, because they hide it.
Sneaky.
They're sneaky. But high fructose corn syrup, corn sweetener. One that's not on there is corn syrup solids, because everybody got wise about high fructose corn syrup and they didn't want it. It wasn't healthy. Like all the moms got in a bandwagon and said, we don't want that in our kids' foods. So they refined the product, turned it into corn syrup solids and added that instead, and stuck a label on the outside of the package that said no longer contains high fructose corn syrup, because they swapped it for corn syrup solids.
Yeah. Evil for evil.
Yes.
As far as your gut's concerned.
But yes. Yeah. And other things. Corn sweetener, cane juice, dextrose, fructose, glucose, maltose, lactose, sucrose, malt syrup, many, 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 many more. Unfortunately, sugar is one of the most detrimental anti-nutrients for the health of your gut. It promotes the growth of bad bacteria. It hinders the growth of the good bacteria. It contributes to the deterioration of the digestive system's mucus lining. It feeds gut-attacking fungus called Candida albicans. And the other thing that feeds that is stress. So if you're stressed and eating sugar, then you've got Candida overgrowth, and that's causing all kinds of
when I eat sugar
problems. And there's a reason for that, right? We understand that in traditional Chinese medicine, your body's looking for something sweet to calm the mind down. But there's lots of foods in traditional Chinese medicine, like peppermint and ginger, that accomplish that and have in Chinese medicine a sweet taste that your body's craving, but it actually brings nutrition to the body.
Exactly.
Right. So the main takeaway here is cut your sugar if you want to be healthy. We recommend no more than 8 grams, which is 2 teaspoons a day.
Well, and before we jump off the sugar bandwagon, Jane, what if I just want to not have any sugar and I switch to erythritol?
Or our sugar alcohols and our artificial sweeteners? None of that is good for your body either. The erythritol, they've brought out allulose. Allulose, they'll tell you, is a rare sugar that they just extract it from raisins. That's what it says on the outside of the packet. What they actually do, because they can't get enough of this rare sugar out of the raisins, is genetically modify and grow it in a lab and then put it in a packet and tell you it comes from raisins. So
I mean, originally it came from raisins.
Originally, at one point it was.
Yes.
So the only two that we really recommend are pure stevia and monk fruit.
You gotta
extract.
read labels though.
You've got to read the labels. They cut it with erythritol all the time, which can upset the balance of the bacteria inside the gut. And for a lot of people,
bacteria.
A lot of people who are struggling with IBS already, those sugar alcohols are a nightmare. They will trigger even worse IBS symptoms.
Yep. I just had to play devil's advocate for a second. Just
my
because
favorite topic.
I hear that question a lot.
Yes. So it's not good for you at all.
Yeah. If you want to swap bad sugars for good sugars, eat fruit.
Yeah. So the prevalence, we're going to talk about gluten next. The prevalence of gluten allergies and sensitivities has been on a steady and steep rise, but research has been suggesting that even those without diagnosed intolerances may still experience digestive distress from the consumption of gluten. And we know this because gluten is actually a high FODMAP food. So it can cause, which is a whole nother topic, but it can cause a ton of peristalsis in the gut and bloating and make you feel absolutely miserable. So gluten directly affects the integrity of the intestinal lining due to the production of a protein called zonulin. Now, zonulin can open up the spaces between the cells of the intestinal lining and in turn increase the permeability of the intestines altogether. And that leads to something called leaky gut and the ability for those toxins, the microbes and the antibodies to just escape through the spaces and to be released from the intestines into your bloodstream. The antibodies released are proteins initially produced to attack one of gluten's most prominent building blocks, which is gliadin. And these antibodies contribute to the secretion of inflammatory chemicals that lead to the damage of otherwise healthy tissues. So in other words, your body reacts simply to the consumption of gluten by creating a defense mechanism to fight it. And once that damage has occurred within the digestive tract, it's then distributed throughout the entire body.
Well, and it's important to recognize too that the gluten that we're eating today is not at all how gluten started out. It's been modified and resistant and resilient and harder for
we know it takes
insects,
bread and
but digestion as well.
Right. We know it takes things like bread and it gives it the fluff factor and it holds it all together nicely. It gives it that elasticity that we like, the glue. And that, so what they've done is you'll see it sometimes on the back of a packet when you're reading the label, it will have added wheat gluten on top of the gluten that's already in there. So it's not even that we're just getting, you know, it has been hybridized and grown out and it's not the same as it was even 100 years ago, but we've added more in because it gives us that elasticity and the lightness to the bread. And I was thinking about this the other day, and I was thinking, because I do every now and again think about like medieval England, and I was thinking about the upper crust because I don't even know, but I was thinking about how that bread actually was probably more like a brick. I mean,
our homemade bread was always heavy. Like we put it on the cutting board and it would be dunk, dunk.
Yeah.
And then you just melt butter on it.
Otherwise you're going to be chewing it till your jaw aches, because that's how bread originally was. It wasn't this light, fluffy gastronomical delight that just gut bombs you now. Right. Okay. Now, gluten is found in the majority of our grains like wheat, barley, spelt, and rye. But not all grains contain gluten, and many gluten-free grains should be avoided while you're working to heal your gut up. Brown rice also contains something called phytic acid, and that's difficult for your body to break down and digest, and that can lead to inflammation within your digestive tract. And it can also affect the absorption of key minerals like magnesium, calcium, and zinc, and it makes digestive enzymes less efficient and causes overall digestive stress. But like we said earlier on, sprouting and soaking is the key to solving that. It can help remove that phytic acid protective covering. It can make it more digestible in moderation. But for most people, it's best to avoid grains in the early stage of that gut healing process altogether.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And I have brown rice and wild rice soaking for dinner tonight.
I just bloomed wild rice. I don't even cook my wild rice. I just soak it for 24 to 48 hours, depending on the temperature of my kitchen. It blooms, and that's what I do. That way I have all the natural enzymes in there. So now let's move on to our next gut disruptor, medication. This is a big one because over 131 million Americans take at least one prescription medication. That's 66% of Americans. And the fun thing about medication is once you're on one, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump before you're on secondary and third prescriptions to manage the symptoms that come from the first one. So according to Centers for Disease Control, or the CDC, 48.5% of Americans have taken at least one prescription drug. 21.7 Americans have taken 3 or more prescription drugs just in the last 30 days. This is like an epidemic. Some of the many medications that have been proven to disrupt the bacterial balance in the gut and thus digestive function in the body include non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. These are NSAIDs like ibuprofen, Advil, Motrin, synthetic steroids like prednisone, broad-spectrum antibiotics, birth control pills, and antidepressants. There are more. This is just some of the big ones. In most cases, lifestyle and diet changes can replace all of these medications. However, the overuse of these inflammation-producing drugs has become the norm, and it causes unnecessary stress on the digestive and the immune systems. The liver and the kidneys also take a hit as well from medications.
Now, we all know the saying that you are what you eat, but what you are truly is what you can absorb. Your body needs a sufficient amount of digestive enzymes in order to break down food particles efficiently. And without them, the food that you eat would not be broken down into the form that your body can actually absorb the individual nutrients like vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. Your body produces digestive enzymes from the pancreas, the stomach, your salivary glands, and your small intestines. And decreased production of these digestive enzymes can be caused by lots and lots of different things. Things like acid blocking medications, zinc deficiencies, pesticides and chemicals on foods, excessive intake of unsaturated fats, heavy metal consumption, and many, many more. But above all, this lack of these enzymes is usually due to a poor diet. Additionally, as we age, we begin to naturally produce less and less digestive enzymes, and digestion becomes more and more difficult and less efficient. In fact, by the time we reach the age of 45 to 55 years old, our enzymatic production rate has decreased by approximately 50%. Long story short, it's important to stabilize, preserve, and supplement your digestive enzymes in order to absorb your nutrients effectively and efficiently. And that can be done by including more raw food in your diet, by eliminating processed foods, and taking a trusted digestive enzyme supplement.
Yes, digestive enzymes made a huge difference in my healing journey.
Yeah. Now, let's take a moment to talk about probiotics. They are the bacteria that live mostly in the lower portion of your GI tract. They produce substances that help to balance your gut's microbiome. They promote healthy bacteria, and they hinder harmful bacterial growth. And probiotics can be lost by a poor diet, by excessive use of medicine, and exposure to oxidative stress. And luckily, there are some ways that you can intake probiotics to regain this healthy balance of bacteria within your gut. Probiotics are found in a wide variety of foods, including things like yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, tempeh, miso, kimchi, and kombucha. And you also want to explore further supplementation by taking a probiotic supplement. There are several different healthy probiotic bacteria strains. Now, I think Kelly gave me this list because she doesn't like reading big words.
I did. I looked at it and I was like, oh, that's not going to work with my dyslexia.
All right. Lactobacillus acidophilus, Lactobacillus bulgarius, Lactobacillus reuteri, Streptococcus thermophilus, Saccharomyces boulardii, Bifidobacterium bifidum, and Bacillus subtilis. So functional medicine diagnostics tests can also give you a really good idea of which bacteria you have the good ones of, what you don't have enough of the good ones of, and it can help to bring balance and heal that as well. If you're dealing with histamine intolerance, probiotics can be your worst enemy. So again, it's individualized and what you're working on.
And not all probiotics are created the same.
No, they're not.
Yeah. So now we're going to talk to the toxin issue. Okay, exposures to toxins is unavoidable. We're exposed to them on a daily basis between the pesticides on our food, contamination of our water, pollutants in the air, and chemicals in our common household and hygiene products. To reduce and prevent this toxic overload, there are many ways we can minimize our exposure. Doing things like choosing organic, non-GMO foods, using air purification systems, using water filters, using toxic-free household items, and using toxic-free hygiene, body, or beauty products. When you eat organic foods, you're eating on average 3 or less pesticide residues. When you eat non-organic or GMO foods, you're eating no less than 10 pesticide residues. That's a huge difference in toxic load and burden to the body. Most people don't stop to think about the products that they use around their home or on their bodies either. Your skin is your largest organ. Whatever touches your skin hits your liver in about 30 seconds. Between medication overuse and toxic exposure, it's really no wonder at all that so many people are walking around with burdened, congested, and sluggish livers. To further detox from these toxins, you should implement some of the following methods. These are not all of them, but here are some of the biggies. Proper nutrition makes a big difference. Ample hydration, also a big difference. Fasting, sweating, exercising. Personally, I'm a huge fan of clinical water fasting and just fasting in general. It is one of the best ways to liberate and detox toxins from your adipose tissue or your fat cells in the body. However, depending on where you are in your wellness journey, fasting may not be appropriate or even safe for you. Always check with your practitioner to see if fasting is an appropriate tool for you to use or if it's contraindicated until your body heals more and is stable.
Let's take a moment to talk about infections. They are caused by foreign invaders known as pathogens. They can be things like bacteria, viruses, parasites, or fungi. And these acute infections are usually fought off by our immune system, but chronic infections are not. Instead, your immune system provides this continued effort to keep fighting this infection without removing the pathogen. And that leads to health problems indefinitely and a severe hindrance of the healthy gut microbiome. Unfortunately, many of the conventional methods of handling infections also compromise gut health. So alternatively, it's a good idea to work to understand any infections within your body, treat them appropriately, and then work with a professional to get your health back.
Yep. Stress. This is a fun one. Stress can be caused by a number of sources, and to make things more tricky, your body can't actually tell the difference between good stress, like a wedding or going to Disneyland and riding the amusement rides, or bad stress, stress with work, family, or your health. Some sources of stress that you may not realize are stress to your body and your gut include things like a poor diet, lack of sleep, overtraining or overexercising, decision fatigue, feeling unfulfilled, or experiencing major life changes. Anything really that puts a high demand on your body, mind, or spirit is going to be perceived as stress to the body. That being said, it is apparent that most of us experience stress every single day of our lives. However, when this stress becomes chronic and we're not practicing intentional stress relieving techniques, our bodies pay the consequence. The gut specifically is vulnerable to stress. Stress induces changes in the gut's permeability, barrier accuracy, sensitivity, blood flow, and secretions. Studies have shown that the gut's microbiome responds directly to stress signals. This means that the gut is one of the first lines of defense and the first place to get attacked by stress. Having a stress-free life, it's not a reality. I wish it was. If you guys figure it out, message me directly, CC Jane. But limiting our stress by having boundaries, by eating a nutrient-dense diet, and by regularly using stress-combating tools can be a reality. Some strategies to keep stress controlled, but I hate the word controlled, to actively combat the stress within your body. I like that better. Eating an antioxidant-rich diet, super important. Doing deep breathing exercises. It's free, it's easy, and it's super effective. Regular exercise, participating in social activities, finding an enjoyable hobby, laughter. Laughter is huge for moving you from sympathetic to parasympathetic, spending time outdoors, and many, many more. There's so many things you can do. So think about what your favorite way to manage your stress is. For me, it's being outside, hands down. If I'm out in nature, everything is better.
And I feel the same way about that too. But I also wanted to throw out there, I spent years, and we're going to talk a little bit about this at the very end, with chronic stress that would not turn itself off, like anxiety attacks and panic disorder, and really struggled with a lot of that. And there are tools that can help you when laughter isn't enough because you can't summon up what you need to just laugh today. And going out in nature is actually more anxiety inducing because you got in the car and traveled somewhere. Like if you're at that stage, there are still more things we can do to help and support you. We're going to talk about that at the end today. But if that's you, I've got your back, and we can help you with that too. So just wanted to throw that out there. It's a big shout out. Luckily, we are coming up to the end now, but it is possible to reverse that intestinal damage, to heal from digestive distress, to rebalance your microbiome and repair your overall gut health. And what we do to do that is follow these functional principles, the 4 R's. It's a protocol that is an incredible tool to truly uncover your health issues, your nutritional needs, your digestive dysfunctions, and your bacterial imbalances. And the steps go as following. That wasn't even a sentence. The steps are as follows. The first thing you need to do is remove. So you're going to work on eliminating problem foods, the toxins, the low-grade infections, and the oxidative stress. And yes, sometimes you need the help of a professional to help you navigate those pieces. Then you're going to start working on repairing, and that is introducing a clean diet, giving you the essential nutrients that your body needs to start rebuilding itself. And then you're going to restore. You're going to repopulate your gut with healthy bacteria and restore that proper balance of gut flora. And lastly, you're going to replace things like your digestive enzymes, your antioxidants, your immune boosting vitamins to promote this sustainable and healthy digestion. This 4R model provides an effective and complete way to address and treat gastrointestinal dysfunctions and to achieve optimal health and digestion. Functional holistic nutritionists are trained in these protocols. They work with you to help make your 4R healing individualized just for your needs. That's hard with an
It's
English.
a mouthful, even when you're not British.
4R.
It's a
Healing
lot.
individualized for your needs. It's important to note that this is not a one and done process.
Mhm.
I have been at this. My gut health is so much better than it ever was. But if I'm really honest with you, this gut health journey has been a 26-year process. And I'm still working at it. There are still nuances and things that I'm learning and things that help and things that I learn tip it over the edge. But I, 5 years ago, was getting ready to fly to the UK, and I sent out a prayer request to the people that I know and love and who were going to pray for me, because my gut was so upset. I didn't know if I was actually going to be able to get on the plane and fly home. And that is a horribly embarrassing feeling too, because literally diarrhea nonstop. And then you're thinking about getting on a plane where you're kind of trapped inside a small hollow tube with a lot of people around you. You don't want to have gas. You don't want to be running back and forth to the bathroom. You don't, making sure I'm sitting on an aisle seat. The whole thing was a complete nightmare.
It's a lot of stress.
It's a lot of stress. It only made things worse.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that is not a problem. I know, we've done a lot of healing stuff, and it was an infectious process that triggered all of that and set it going. And we've been working on healing that up. But I wouldn't worry now about traveling. I wouldn't worry now about flying. I wouldn't worry about going somewhere because we've fixed a lot of those things. So it's an ongoing process though. And just because you get one thing sorted out doesn't mean that 10 or 15 years from now, something else isn't just going to go sideways, because you run into
life throw things at you.
It does. I worked at the time at a retirement community as a chaplain, where I was in the retirement community, in hospitals and in assisted living buildings, which is where I picked up the bacteria. It just was a work hazard and exposure that triggered that problem.
Yeah, so my caregiver journey for my mom with her pancreatic cancer destroyed my gut health because it was chronic, intense, prolonged stress. So even when you don't have those curveballs from life, I typically tell clients, and you're like, once or twice a year, just do a maintenance protocol just for like 30 days to shore everything back up. But when life does throw you those curveballs, add in an extra maintenance protocol, get your gut reinforced, and then you're back to feeling good.
Yep. So gut health is truly the pathway to optimize your overall health. Other ways to improve it include things like additional supplementation, specifically vitamin D, zinc, omega-3s, and glutathione that helps you to detox, mind-body practices, staying hydrated, limiting caffeine and alcohol, increasing your fiber, and most importantly, getting your gut microbiome analyzed. Have a look and see what's going on in there, because if you don't know, you can't do anything about it.
Right. And when it comes to supplementation, more is not better. Better is better. Yeah. Because if you take too much of something more than your body needs, you can be bringing something else out of balance, and it can really mess up your levels. Okay. That was a lot of information to get through, but gut health is so very important, and it will make or break your health and your well-being. Thank you again for joining us today and for choosing to make your health and your well-being a priority. We hope that you are feeling empowered with ways that you can start to support your gut health in a better way. We know that often gut dysfunction can be hard to figure out, especially when you're not sure what your root cause is of the dysfunction in your body. That can be really overwhelming. If you would like help and support in your wellness journey, Jane and I are here to help. We are happy to support you.
Yeah, and I was going to say, we're going to move into a question and answer time in just a moment. So now's the time if you want to drop any questions in that chat box so we can answer them. That would be fantastic. I'm going to throw up on here for just a moment the contact information.
Yep, and like we said, we know that change can be hard, especially when it comes to diet and lifestyle and habits. So we're here to support you every step of the way and help you navigate your path to wellness. So here is our contact information if you would like to reach out to us. Also, before we say goodbye, we would like to invite you to our next monthly webinar Wednesday, Why Your Mental Health is Important. It's going to be on May 25th at 10 a.m. Arizona Pacific time, so save the date now. Our webinars are always free and packed full of useful information so you can be empowered to support your body better and live the abundant life that you were created to. And I want to hand it off to Jane about something else that's happening in May that we are super excited about.
Yes, we are incredibly excited to announce our first in-person event since COVID. Woohoo! Coming back out into the world.
So excited.
Yes, it's called Change Your Food, Change Your Mood. And we're going to be hosting this half-day event. This is near and dear to my heart. This is what I love to do because it was my story. It's my personal journey. Get all caught up in it. But we're hosting this half-day event to show you how you can assess your emotions and your addictions. We're going to help you understand how lifestyle choices will impact that and your nutritional needs. You're going to come away with this concrete understanding of the necessity of balancing your blood sugar, so crucial.
Yeah.
How we use diet and lifestyle choices as a proven way to support a healthy mind. And then we're going to teach you what you need to know about amino acid therapy. Amino acids are just the tiniest form of protein, and how those support your mental health, and how it can take that and your brain health to the next level.
Yep.
So we would love to have you there. The cost is $35. That $35 simply covers the cost of the materials that we are handing out to you. We are not making any money off this event. We just want you to be there. We're giving you snacks, healthy snacks, and that's covered in the cost as well. And then the workbooks. Some of you I know are already coming, but if you're in Mesa, come. We want you to be there.
Yeah, I mean, a half-day conference with a resource book that you take home for $35 is a steal.
Yeah,
you have to be worth $35.
Yeah, it's worth investing in yourself. Come hang out with
Exactly.
us.
Yeah.
All right. So the links are there to sign up for that. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and then we are going to answer these questions that you guys have. Oh, Amber, we wish you could be here too. But I expect in Nebraska, you're going to be enjoying the great weather coming up, and we're going into the heat.
Yeah,
Right.
that's fair. Arizona in the summer is my least favorite place.
Okay. So Annie asked, how about goat milk, kefir, and yogurt?
So it depends on your gut,
Mhm.
and it depends on what's happening in your body. I'll use myself as an example. Doing gut testing, I react to cow milk. I do not react to goat or sheep milk. However, if I have that, I also have autoimmune, Hashimoto's, and autoimmune doesn't like dairy, whether you react to it or not. So even though it's not causing an IgG reaction in my gut, if I have too much of goat or sheep dairy, it affects my Hashimoto's and my thyroid production. So it depends on your body. I see very often clients will react to one form of dairy protein and not others. Typically, while we're healing the gut, we remove all dairy so that the inflammation can drop as fast as possible and healing can happen as soon as possible. And then you can add the non-reactive dairy back as like an occasional treat. Dairy is just inflammatory and acidic upon digestion, so we don't ever really recommend leaning into it. Like, is so common in the standard American diet, but like for real, who wouldn't like to eat cheese every day? Like, the reason it's so delicious is because it has casomorphins, which mimic opiates in your brain. So chew on that.
It does do that. And the other thing I wanted to note too is we struggle so much with our weight in the US, and those milk products are designed to grow a baby cow into an enormous beast. Whereas goat milk and some of those other things they're designed to grow a much smaller animal. And so they are less detrimental to our weight, and the proteins in goat's milk are often more easily digested by us. They're kind of closer to human milk. And then the other piece is when you get a block of cheddar that is goat's milk cheddar and it costs you $11 for that block, you
ration
use it
that,
sparingly.
you ration that stuff out, man.
Yes. Amber noted that her son did an elimination diet for his allergies, but it was horrible, and they actually needed blood work to diagnose and properly eliminate. That is accurate.
Yep.
If in the past you've been on an AIP diet and you're having issues, I would suggest you redo the blood work because things change and they don't stay the same.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. All right, what else? What is the best way, Kendra asks, what's the best way to go about getting a gut test? Can you see a naturopath? And okay, next one's from Amber.
So depending on your naturopath, there's lots of different ways to test the gut, and not all tests are created equal. So you can ask them if they're using something like MERT. I don't love the MERT test. It's like, it was developed in the 1970s and they really haven't changed the technology, but technology's changed a lot since then. Or ALCAT, same thing. We use Great Plains Laboratory, We work with people in state and out of state. So if your practitioner,
Depending on which state.
Yeah. If your practitioner doesn't do proper gut testing for IgG antibodies, reach out to us and we'll see if that's something that we can help you with.
I really like there's a doctor's data, stool analysis, parasitology, and I just looked that up for somebody. I think it's probably close to $500 by the time you're done with it. But it gives you a really complex list of all the things that your gut has inside of it, and then the natural and pharmaceutical remedies that help to resolve that.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you know the reactions of each food and your Hashi numbers, etc.?
Well, the reactions of each food is going to be measured through gut testing. You're going to see if it's a mild, moderate, or severe reaction, and that helps us kind of put the pieces together to see how extensive the leaky gut damage is. In addition to an IgG test, we often will recommend an organic acids test, which really gives us a detailed look at what's happening, not only in the gut microbiome, but with metabolic processes, so we can figure that out. I track what's happening in my gut and line it up with what's happening with my Hashi antibodies by regularly, like every 3 months, testing my antibodies for Hashi, so I can see if what I'm doing is playing nice with my Hashi or not. And I will say this, I'm in a season right now in my recovery since my mom's passing, where I've had a Hashi's flare. And I was just chatting with Jane about this. It's not diet related at all for me. My gut is shored up. My diet is clean. For me, it's still just managing stress and recovering from that 3 years of stress. It was a lot. So just because your antibodies are going up with Hashi doesn't necessarily mean that it's gut related, but if you haven't done gut work and shored up your gut, it's probably gut related. That's Jane's area of focus is mental health. Mine is autoimmune. So it gets complicated.
And Kendra asked if we're going to be able to access this recording after by chance. And yes, we are recording this, and we will send it out to all of you. Just give us a few minutes to get it uploaded to YouTube so that I can share the link with everyone later on this afternoon. Mike asked us why Americans live longer than Europeans and Asians.
And my first thought is healthcare. My goodness, you have family in Europe and it is not the same healthcare system that we have.
No, it's not. But I mean, Europe, if we're talking like modern Europe with England and Ireland and Italy and I'm not sure that there is that big of a gap. And I'm not quite sure, Mike, I'm so sorry, but I'm not quite sure how to answer that, because I think we've done studies on Asian culture and a lot of that, their nutrition is very healthy. And as we're actually getting more sort of processed foods into those cultures, we're actually seeing a decline in health in those nations. So I'm not sure that we are. And certainly what we're hearing is that like my kids and their generations are going to live less time than we do because of the toxin levels and stuff in the world.
Yeah, we're just getting bombarded by toxic exposure.
Chuck and Judy have a bunch of questions. All right. Okay. What role does processed foods play in gut health? Are you finding that the synthetic ingredients we add to food are the real culprits?
The synthetic ingredients, the toxins, the chemicals, it's
not actually food.
It's not, your body doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Because it's not real food. And then when it tries to break it down and absorb it, it doesn't really know how to use what it's absorbing because it's an altered state.
Yes. Our animal pets are starting to experience some of the same maladies as humans are. That's because we give them crappy food.
So I've got a Frenchie, and if anyone out there knows anything about Frenchies, they're very temperamental with their digestive tracts, and like ear health, eye health. So our dogs eat super, super clean dog food. It's limited ingredient, it's grain-free, it's gluten-free, it's low starch. And then I supplement. Our dogs get human grade supplements. They get fish oil every day. They get probiotics every day. Our old dog gets chondroitin with glucosamine, and she acts like she's a puppy again. So it just depends what you're feeding your pet, right? Garbage in, garbage out, just like with us.
Yes, absolutely.
If you're feeding was it Chuck Wagon? Is that like the old dog food, or like Alpo? You're just shaving years off your pet's life.
Chuck says, when I studied food and science technology, one of the problems in the food industry we encountered was how foods looked. Sometimes the healthy organic foods did not look as good as the processed foods, like organic apples versus non-organic apples with the special coating added to make them look good. Is this a big problem of our current diets in food's appearance?
Yeah. So you go to a grocery store and you look at, let's use apples as an example. You look at commercially grown GMO apples and they are shiny and they are polished. Do I want to eat wax and chemicals? Hard pass. I'd rather just eat an apple. But look at our society, right? This is a whole rabbit hole for me, because even society, we care so much about what something looks like versus substance and quality. So when it comes to your health, it's the same thing. Do you want to just eat foods that look like substance and quality, or do you actually want to have substance and quality so your body can do what it needs to do with it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say too that actually when I cook up my veggies and they are right at that point where you've just got it right and they are vibrant green, vibrant white, vibrant oranges, they look really, really appealing. And there is nothing better than a whole bowl full of chopped up, diced, mixed veggies that are all different colors of the rainbow.
It's beautiful.
They look beautiful and it's so appetizing and appealing. Part of it is that we don't think about, like, when we bring it home, what it looks like then and what we can do to make a meal appetizing and appealing to us to eat.
Right.
But also I got to this point in my head where I'm like, not that I don't enjoy the appearance of food, but food is there as a nutritional source for me.
Yes.
I mean, we need pleasure and I understand that. And there is a whole piece to that puzzle, but food is nutrition. Food is fueling my body and it's providing it with the nutrients it needs to heal and to function every day. So it changes my mindset.
Yeah. Instead of thinking, what do I feel like eating or what looks good? You need to be thinking, like, what does my body need? What nutrients do I need? Do I have non-starchy vegetables? Do I have complex, slow digesting, healthy, nutrient dense carbs? Do I have clean protein? And then just remember the whole pesticide thing. Fewer than 3, more than 10. Now that glossy apple doesn't look so good to me.
Right. But there are great benefits, yes, in using beef bone broth, well, bone broth in general for leaky gut, because it's high in L-glutamine, which is really good at, it's a fuel for the gut cells, and it's really good at bringing healing to them.
Yes.
It can work really, really well as long as you don't have histamine issues. For people with histamine issues, bone broth can be a little bit problematic sometimes. And fueling that histamine response.
Yeah, and you're not going to drink enough bone broth to get into therapeutic range. So I say, and I use bone broth, I cook bone broth all the time. It is a supplement to a gut healing protocol. You're not going to heal your gut through bone broth alone.
Right. And then red wine for frequent gut health ailments. Dodgy at best.
Resveratrol. It's a supplement and it has no sugar, and that's what you're trying to get the red wine with.
Yeah, the antioxidants. I mean, there's a ton of antioxidants in red wine, and it's that red fruit color that we need. When you've got IBS and gut trouble, fermented foods are not your friend necessarily. And red wine is a fermented food.
And it has sugars.
And it has lots of sugars in it. So I'm not sure that it is the best thing. And we have a whole problem with an addiction level too, of people using it and getting hooked on it. So on all of those notes,
it causes stress.
If you want the red antioxidants, grab the grapes. That's where they started out. If you want the resveratrol from the grape seed, then go ahead and grab some resveratrol capsules and take those. You know, just for a ton of that healing process, I feel like there's better things that we can choose than alcohol. And I'm not against, like, I don't personally drink because it triggers my anxiety, but you know, my husband, we went out the other day and he had a beer. I don't have a problem with people having the occasional drink.
I occasionally drink, but I
sure
feel the impact of it as well. My sleep is off. My gut doesn't feel awesome the next day.
I'm not sure I'd count it in the realms of a health food.
No, I wouldn't either.
Dark chocolate's different. All right. So should we go to the doctor every 3 weeks to keep these numbers in check? That's probably a little bit too frequent.
3 months. If you're actively working on your TPO antibodies, your body takes time to respond to something. A cell life is 28 days. So whether you're changing thyroid medication dosing, if you're on thyroid medication replacement, depending where you are in your journey, you have to give the body time to accept the change, respond to the change, and then build up. So if you're getting your antibodies tested more frequently than every 3 months, you're not giving your body enough time.
Yeah. And I do that. I do standard with all of my clients that I work with. I ask them to go back after 3 months to go and get their labs redone. And we just did that with a gal. I put a post up about her yesterday that we just redid her diabetes labs 3 months in to the process, just about 4 months actually.
Yeah.
And she's dropped 2 points off of her A1C by working with us. But it takes time for those things. A1C is a 3-month picture. So it doesn't help if we're looking at things 3 weeks in.
Right, 3 months.
So,
and then I will add to this too, that 3-month interval is when you're actively troubleshooting and working it. Once you're stable,
annually.
When I'm stable, maybe like part of my annual, I'll say, hey, let me just see where my antibodies are at. But when I'm actively working on it, it's 3-month intervals.
Yep. All right. We reached the end of our questions.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging in there. Great questions. Absolutely love question and answer time. If you guys think of any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we hope to see you for our 2 events in May. If you're local, we'd love to see you at Change Your Food, Change Your Mood. If not, we will see you for our next monthly webinar.
Absolutely. And I will send out the recording this afternoon to everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.